someone gets paid. You know that half of these places are actually people like that. So they do like drinking areas and things like that. Yeah? So right now, how much you try to go down by just giving people permission to continue to ruin their lives. For me, that doesn't work in it. You know what I'm saying? So mostly, it's all like it's not romantic when people are already covering. Yeah. So my thing is like people come to me as from, and they start using they're hearing people saying like I was 3 years clean this last Thursday. You get me? So they're hearing people saying that I'm 3 years clean. This is how I did it, and do you know what I mean? So they know there's a solution in the world. Some of them are coming closer to being part of that solution. But there's people that have got no clean time than that. But there's a mixture of everyone from 20 years to 2 days. And it's still a bit. This is set up with a video. Yeah, no problem. I know I got that. I've set that up. Hello. Oh, easy. You're right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's been in town at the camera demo, so...
How'd that go?
Good, yeah, they were like, there's so nice, just with the completely outnumbered, so...
I put it there.
I'll put it on the
Recording the whole thing, yeah.
Found in the mountain parts. And you know who told you just another child in the dark. It's gonna take much more than thousands to march, more than a speech, more than a poet, more than a track of music. Gonna take more than to sit down with bad and Yusuf. Even bringing back ambassadors isn't act that's useless as long as you are boiling full of patches and the tanks they using. Freedom just beyond reach for people you cannot see. He's wheezing and cannot breathe and screaming through the concrete, looking for his poor children. Bombs need structures that I wouldn't want to call buildings. My fingers pointed at this government, you all would kill them. Told me that you wouldn't take up arms and cause with your children. Let me make the facts clear. The bombs manufactured here, and you want the land of stairs because of natural gas in there. So death in the atmosphere, what we happens down and stare. And a little boy begs for his brother's strand of hair. Truth is I don't know how anyone can live after digging for their dead kids buried under bricks. Israel is a terror state, terrorists that terrorize, testify my television, televising, telling lies. This is not a war, it is systematic genocide. But whatever they try, Palestine will never die. They're not prepared to face the pain, so they're scared to see your name. They're not prepared to face the pain, so they're scared to see your name. They're not prepared to face the pain, so they're scared to see your name. They're not prepared to face the pain, so they're scared to see your name. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, free, free, free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, free, free, free. Churches and paramedics, it's turning the panic spreading. Hospitals where the doctors do C-sections for anesthetics. Depression is manifesting, humanity stands connected. Masses seem apathetic and actually just accepted. When our grandchildren ask us, what did we do to stop it. I'm determined to stay. I did more than make music on it, so I be shut down arms factories. You can try stopping us. Palestine actions, the opposite of white hospitals. You tell them on television, but they never listen. Tell peers more than that resistance isn't terrorism. They woman fled on missing, death in prison, enemies killing. I seen a father hold his baby, their head was missing. Imagine demolition, the whole way your parents living. Kings won't see a thing, but at least we know the Yemen's with them. Epic hands and it hard to see the stages far. Gaza, as a graveyard of the invaders. Ears close to the savagery, clear open, there's clarity. Journalists and doctors are heroes of humanity. Sorted and as gory as historians for now. And they've been populating Gaza for their glorians for now. Israel is a terror state, terrorists that terrorize. I testify on television, televise and telling lies. This is not a war, it is systematic genocide. Or whatever they try, Palestine will never die.
ولن نرحل من اهل الارض بل سنتقدم الى ارضنا الى بلادنا الى فلسطين.
You sit there. I need help. Just sit here.
On Palestine streets, they've been like farewell, 'cause they want to see the whole world is watching.
It's new one. This is the first day, so I'm just I'm just waiting to like. I don't know. Yeah. So £150 for that. Yeah. This film just trying.
فلسطين يا فلسطين جروحك بكى الحجر صرخات طفل بريء يسمعها رب البشر من صواريخ السماء تنزل مثل المطر يا فلسطين فلسطين يا فلسطين ستعودي أرض السلام فلسطين يا فلسطين سيزول عنك الظلام صرخات طفل بريء يسمعها رب البشر من صواريخ السماء تنزل مثل المطر يا فلسطين
microphone. I have to get it from home. So just check. I'll be back by 10-15 minutes.
No worries.
Inshallah. Yeah, and make sure to share the link. I bring it live on the channel.
All right,
Share the link. Yeah, inshallah. And save that seat. That's me.
Yeah, well, just leave your stuff there. It'll be fine. I'll make sure.
Yeah, inshallah. Yeah. Okay, see you soon, inshallah.
يا بلادي الاستقرار متحمل زي الياسمين شعبك على بعضه مستني بكره هنعود نكسب نرسم وطننا شمس الحرية تكفينا حتى الموت حنفين نرجع رضينا مهما تكملنا بكرة نعملها وبحر ضاع فلسطين أرض السلام أرض المرسلين فلسطين يا روح الروح إحنا مش ناسين فلسطين طائف يا مخايف راجعين فلسطين عز وكرام شعب مهزومين فلسطين فلسطين يا حبيبة فلسطين شعب اسمه محاربي راجع من الغربي كنا للقدس والأقصى خصم المجد والليل كنا للشهداء اللي ضحوا تعيش فلسطين حتى تعيش فلسطين فلسطين أرض السلام أرض المرسلين فلسطين يا روح الروح إحنا مش ناسيين فلسطين طائف راجعين فلسطين عز وكرام شعب مهين فلسطين 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 يا حبيبة فلسطين فلسطين أرض السلام أرض المرسلين فلسطين يا روح الروح إحنا مش ناسين فلسطين طائف راجعين فلسطين عز الكرام شعب مهابين فلسطين فلسطين يا حبيبة فلسطين وكرهك رجعي وفضائلك رجعي
Yeah. You can just. That's rushing.
القدس وعكا نحن إلى يافا في غزة نحن وقلبه الواحد منا يزهرها يافا لن تدخل فينا ورقة فيه ما هان الحق عليك ولا خاف عودتنا إيمان ويقين لن نسكت لن نستسلم لا 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 نحيا فلسطين فلسطين بلادي نحملها جرحا ومحلا لا 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 لو أحببت فيها اليوم الدين لن نسكت لن نستسلم لا 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 نبكي نحيا فلسطين فلسطين بلادي نحملها جرحا أو أملا لا 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 لو راح نبقى فينا اليوم الدين فلسطين بلادي كي تشرق شمسك فوق أمانينا وينام صغارك مبتسمين ونراك بخير حين تناجينا لعمار بيوت وبساتين سنعيدك وطنا رغم مآسينا أحرارا نشدو التحرير لن نسكت لن نستسلم لا 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 نهديك نحيا فلسطين فلسطين بلادي نحملها جرحا أو أملا لا 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 لو راح نبقى فينا اليوم الدين راح نبقى فيك يا فلسطين لا 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 نهديك نحيا فلسطين فلسطين بلادي نحملها جرحا أو أملا لا 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 لو راح نبقى فينا اليوم الدين فلسطين بلادي
You know that crystal fog. I think it's, I don't know what it's called. Yeah. Just put it there.
Where do you want to put it?
Yeah, just put it there. Yeah, I don't know. The channel is called Home and Islam. Home, yeah. Yes, online, yes, yeah.
Online.
Yes.
One of my friends' page is called it.
Yes, yeah, should join, yes, there. Chef, can you pass the link? Yeah, the link of the channel, you can pass it to her. It said Home and Islam. That's the channel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All is
Yeah.
like a YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah, just show her, yeah.
Thank you.
على بحر مناديلي على أرض بلادي أنا نهلي أنا بيرون أنا دم فلسطيني 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 أنا دم فلسطيني
The end was Pakistan.
Yeah, throw it back to you ready.
Yeah. So it's on the top of that. Did you see the other one? There was another one I put it before, so it should be there. Did you see it?
Yeah, he's on put it up there, so should be both should be there.
Yeah.
So hopefully it should be on there.
I just put it here. Did you do a session today in the morning?
Yeah.
Did we? Today in the morning?
Oh, no, we didn't. You know, there's been a riot in town, haven't we?
Yes.
That's
Oh,
right.
yeah.
We did one Thursday.
What happened in the town center today? Yeah, I heard they do it, right?
There was a riot and stuff like that happening, so that's why we didn't do it.
Yeah, it's fine, yes.
Hopefully, next week we're doing one on Thursday next week again.
Oh, yes, yeah.
We're over down Thursday.
Yeah.
We're trying to get Saturday as well.
Yeah.
Next week off.
Inshallah.
See what happens.
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. If there's anyone still in the lobby, if we can come into the main hall, we're going to begin the program, inshallah.
Is it okay for speaking? Is it too high?
Pass it.
Huh?
Let's pass it to you.
Okay.
Let's pass it to just.
What's this?
Set to leave it on top of that.
Okay.
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, Salatu Wassalamu ala Kareem. Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, I greet you all with the greeting of peace, Assalamu alaikum, which basically means peace be with you all. I want to thank everybody for joining us today on this, I think, a pretty historic event for our city. I think, of course, we are living in unprecedented times. We're living in times that are that probably none of us were prepared for. The laptop is set up for our call to Gaza, so there might be calls coming in throughout, so we'll have to just keep declining them unless we log you out, Junaid, until the session starts. As I said, we're living in unprecedented times, and I think for somebody that's lived in Hull most of my life, I've never seen the community come together for a cause the way that we have over the last year for the people of Palestine. I know there are people in this room who have probably dedicated their whole lives campaigning for the people of Palestine, campaigning for their rights, campaigning for their freedom. And everyone in this room at some point has done whatever they can to help the people of Palestine, whether it's by giving, whether it's by campaigning, whether it's by speaking out, whether it's by taking to the streets, whatever it is in their power, we have all done something. And over the last year, we have seen the most horrific genocide take place before our very eyes. And it didn't feel right that a year would come and a year would pass and we do not mark the tragic situation that we find ourselves in. Hence, we felt it was important for us to get together to recognize the enormity of the situation that we find ourselves in, that this is a milestone in history that people will talk about, just as they do about the Holocaust, the horrific Holocaust of the Second World War, just as people remember what happened in Bosnia and Srebrenica in '92, just as the horrific massacres that took place in Rwanda and other horrific situations in our past. There were people at that time who no doubt stood up against it. And in our lifetime, this is that horrific historic situation, and we must recognize it, hence we are here today. We have quite a packed program, and I'm sure you've seen it. I'll go into a bit more detail of what to expect for the rest of the program. But I wanted to begin formally the program with a recitation from the Quran, and also a few words from our leaders of the mosques and the Muslim community. So I'm going to begin by inviting our Imam from Hull Mosque and Islamic Center, and we'll also be hearing from Imams from Jami Masjid on Pearson Park as well. So we'll begin with a short recitation from Imam Abid, inshallah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سبحان الذي أسرى بعبده ليلا من المسجد الحرام إلى المسجد الأقصى سبحان الذي أسرى بعبده ليلا من المسجد الحرام إلى المسجد الأقصى الذي باركنا حوله لنريه من آياتنا إنه هو السميع البصير وآتينا موسى الكتاب وجعلناه هدى لبني إسرائيل ألا تتخذوا من دوني وكيلا ذرية من حملنا مع نوح إنه كان عبدا شكورا وقضينا إلى بني إسرائيل في الكتاب لتفسدن في الأرض مرتين ولتعلن علوا كبيرا. صدق الله العظيم. We ask first and foremost, I thank you for attending. I've been asked to say a few words on behalf of some of the Muslim leaders who are here today. I represent Hull Mosque and Islamic Center, but today we are here for a shared purpose. We are gathered here today to reflect on an immense tragedy, one that has persisted for far too long. The suffering of the people of Gaza and now spreading into other regions such as Lebanon, Syria, Yemen and other places. It's been a whole year of relentless violence, destruction and loss, 1 year of watching innocent families torn apart, 1 year of children orphaned, and 1 year of entire communities shattered. And when we are saying 1 year, it's almost as though it feels like it only began a year ago. But for those who know, those who are read, those who are educated, those who bother to look further than before October the 7th, we know that this is a genocide that has been happening for many, many, many years. And we are gathered here today in a small community of Hull, I would say, even though the room is packed, we say Alhamdulillah, glory be to God, to try and make a difference, to try and spread the word, to try and still talk about it. There's so much that I can say, but I only have a couple of minutes. What I want to do really is to just bring it home. I spoke to some of the people before I came on stage and I said, every time they see me, I'm usually a jokey character. I like to crack jokes. I'm known to be somebody who's always smiling. But on an occasion like this, it's very difficult to smile. It's very difficult to crack a joke. My voice is already cracking because I can feel I'm getting emotional. We were here last night preparing the room and I came this morning to drop a few things off. I brought my little daughter. I brought my 3-year-old daughter with me. And I have a 4-month-old at home. And it's almost shameful that I don't worry about them. I know they'll be okay. I know they have food on the table. I know that when I get home, I'll see them. I know that they are safe. When I say I know that they will be safe or they are safe, actually it's not guaranteed. Because I might not get home. And when I get home, I just imagine that the building has collapsed on them. I felt it more a year ago. I feel it less now. And for that, I feel shameful. And every time we are smiling and we are happy and we are joyful with our families, it's almost as though I don't care. And from the religious point of view, one of the sayings of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is that the one who does not care about their brother or their sister, who does not have that care in their heart, they are not from amongst us, they are not one of us. And the beauty of today's gathering is that we are here, people of all backgrounds, all races, different religions and none. But we are here for a shared cause. This is the cause of humanity. We are brothers and sisters in humanity. And if us standing, sitting or attending this gathering can make a slight difference in which we reawaken that emotion in our heart, we reawaken that strength that we need to persist, to make a difference in our communities, perhaps God Almighty will look upon us favorably, perhaps our prayers will be answered, and perhaps it will make some sort of difference. And for those of us who believe in an afterlife, believe in a judgment day, for those of us who believe we'll be standing in front of God Almighty one day, when we will be questioned, what did you do in the face of the largest genocide in your history, in our history? What did you do? We can at least say we gathered. We can at least say we held our flags up high and we spread the word, and we did not bow down to all of the negativity. We did not become cowards when people are attacking, and we know what's going on in the town centre. We did not back down. We did not cancel today's event, for example. And ultimately, we gathered here today to raise our voices and say, free, free Palestine. Thank you very much for listening. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
straight on to our next speaker. It's Imam Mizan, who's here on behalf of Jami Masjid, inshallah.
Good afternoon, everyone, and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As an imam, as a member of the community, it's our responsibility to continue to remind one another and to continue to encourage each other. With everything going on, and we do know what's going on. That's the reason why today, alhamdulillah, we've gathered. And we do care, and that is why today we've gathered as well. But as Imam Abid mentioned, last year, the worry and concern that we had, the feelings that we had, are not the same as they are today. 12 months ago, 11 months ago, when we first saw the videos and pictures of children being murdered and killed, of mosques, of hospitals and schools being bombed, of unborn children being pulled from the wombs of their mothers, dead, we would feel tears come in our eyes and we would feel our throats go dry. A year has passed and we still see those pictures on social media. As we're going through our Instagram and we're going through our TikTok videos, and we're going through our social media, those pictures and those videos are still coming through. But that feeling is no longer the same. We see the video, we see the picture, and we just skip through. We think, yeah, we know how this is going to end. We see there's somebody running in the streets and they're crying, and we see that there's fire in the background, and we think in the back of our minds, I know how this video is going to end. I will scroll through, I will go to the next video. Today is all about rekindling that love for the people of Palestine. Reigniting that fire in our hearts. And we might be thinking and we might be asking ourselves, that what difference will it make? You know, we've been talking about this for a whole year. Many of us for far longer. What difference will it make? But as Muslims, and also as people of belief, and as humans, we know that the result is never in our hands. It's not up to us how the end result will be. What's in our control and what we have control over is what we do, is what we say, is what we post, is what we share. That's in our control. Many people, they may even say, oh yeah, they gathered in Springbank Community Centre, 100, 200 people. You think that's going to make a difference? You should have sat at home. What was the point? But we believe that for every good deed that we do, and for every time that we gather together, and for every time that we share our concerns, then the help of God and the help of Almighty will come. And that's what today is all about. And it's so important for all of us that we continue to educate ourselves. If there's one thing that we've lost, it's education. You know, yes, we go to school, and we go to college, and we go to university, and we get degrees, and we may read books. But the reality is we only learn what the world wants us to learn. We only read what the media wants us to read. We only believe what the world wants us to believe. Is it not time that we start reading facts? Is it not time that we start reading history? Is it not time that we realize who the real enemies are? Who are the ones who are making ties and breaking ties amongst us? Who are the ones causing division? Who are the ones making us turn on each other? And who are the ones who are trying to bring us together? Because everybody knows that when we as a community come together for any cause, then we can make a difference. So it's time that we educate ourselves, and it's time that we educate our children. Many people will say, and I'll finish on this point, that our children are too young. They're too innocent to know what's going on. Yes, they are innocent, and yes, they are young. But are the children of Gaza not young? And are the children of Gaza not innocent? What wrong did they do? And what sin did they commit to deserve this today? You know, a video comes up and we'll hide it from our children. And I'm not saying to be explicit and show them everything. But they, as children, they also need to know, to an extent, of what is taking place. so that the love of Palestine and the love of the people of Gaza and the love of humanity comes into their hearts. And not so that our hearts become strong and hard like rocks. Because that is the reality of today. So we take it upon ourselves, the small number of people who have gathered here today. We make it our responsibility and our goal and our dream that we will educate ourselves, we will educate our families, we will educate our children, we will educate our communities, we will educate our colleagues, and everyone that we see, we will speak to them about Palestine. Whether it be verbally speaking to them, or whether it be holding up the flag, or whether it be having a badge on our shirts, or whether it be posting something on our social media, we will continue to speak about Palestine until they become free. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give each and every one of us the tawfiq to see that day when Palestine will be free. And even if we don't live to see that day, even if we don't live to see the day where the children of Gaza can walk around freely, where the students of Gaza can go to university and they can study, where the mothers of Gaza can go home and they can cook for their families, where the fathers of Gaza can go home and they can play with their children. Even if we don't live to see that day, may our lives be spent in that cause to make that day come. And that's why it's so important for all of us as a community to read, to learn, and to even try and visit. So next up, I would like to call upon my colleague Imam Yusuf, who has actually been to Gaza and has actually been to Palestine and Masjid al-Aqsa, and he has seen and prayed in those blessed lands. Jazakallah khair.
We praise Allah the Most High, and upon Him do we rely. He saved the Ark of Noah on Mount Judi and spoke to Moses on Mount Sinai. He hears the plea of the one in distress and responds to the silent cry. He taught us how to worship Him and our hearts how to purify, and revealed to us the book with our voices we beautify. He sent us a prophet whose teachings we try to exemplify. He blessed us with divine guidance that we try to live by. So we ask for His mercy on the day we shall be resurrected after we die. And may peace and blessings be upon His prophet, whose excellence we can never quantify. Israel's genocide in Gaza continues. Israel's attacks on the West Bank continues. And now Israel's bombardment of Lebanon continues. And they are openly discussing a ground invasion. And once again, in violation of international law, just as they have been, not for a year, but for several decades. How could it be that a state that enjoys the most preferential trading, economic and diplomatic relationship with the Western world will be in a position to literally brag about consigning the international rule book to the dustbin of history? And the reason why Israel continues what it is doing is because it has not faced a single consequence for the unrelented and unmitigated murder of children, women, and innocent men across many, many years. Israel is the exception to every rule that governs our world. And Palestinians are the exception to universal human rights. Israeli pain is validated, whereas Palestinian pain is normalized and even justified. And the reason why we have gotten to this point is because the world has failed. The world has failed. There has been no global response that withdrew support from Israel, or applied sanctions, or put any costs or consequences to the origin of the problem, which is the illegal occupation. And if we are criticizing Russia for its conduct in Ukraine, then why are we turning a blind eye to what's happening, which is much, much worse? An apple fell to the ground, and Newton discovered gravity. Thousands and thousands of Palestinians fall, and no one has discovered humanity. They want you to believe that nothing justifies October the 7th, but October the 7th justifies everything. Was Israel justified in telling people to go to those safe zones and then bombing them and killing them in those safe zones? There were 7 deadly airstrikes over the last few months in areas that Israeli military specifically designated as safe zones. Was Israel justified in raping, sodomizing Palestinian detainees who were charged with no crimes whatsoever, amputating their limbs, and the list goes on? Was Israel justified in killing a record number of children in Gaza? 17,000 children, turning Gaza in what the UN has called a graveyard for children, killing more kids in the first 3 weeks than kids that were killed globally in the last 4 years. Killing little children like 6-year-old Hind Rajab and her 15-year-old sister Leanne, firing 335 bullets into the car which they were in. 335 bullets into the car which innocent children were in. Israel shoots children in the head. Yes, you heard me. Israel shoots children in the head. 3 American doctors went to Gaza. Dr. Feroz Sidwa, Dr. Irfan Falaria, and Jewish American Dr. Mark Perlmutter. All of them came back at separate times, and they all said, children were brought into our hospitals with gunshot wounds to the head, sniper shot wounds to the head, perfect, exact targets. Nothing justifies shooting toddlers in the head. The Gaza Ministry of Health has released a 649-page document with the names and age and ID numbers of 34,000 Palestinians killed in Gaza who have been identified. And the first 14 pages alone are numbers of babies who were under the age of 1 when they were killed. The first 14 pages. And that's just those who have been identified. Tens of thousands are under the rubble, and many more haven't even been identified. I read something a couple of days ago I want to share with you. And it's really emotional. It really brings tears to the eyes. You may have heard about 10-year-old Rasha Al-Arir was killed 5 days ago in Gaza. And she wrote a will. Children are writing wills at that age. So I'm going to read her will. She wrote, "My will, if I am martyred, please do not cry for me, because it pains me to see you cry. And I would like my accessories to be distributed to Rahaf, Sarah, Judy, Lana, and Batul. I want my bead boxes to go to Ahmed and Rahaf. My monthly allowance of 50 shekels, 25 give to Rahaf, and 25 for Ahmed. My books, notebooks, pens should go to Rahaf. And I'd like my toys to be given to Batul. And please do not yell at my brother Ahmed. I kindly ask that you respect this will." And her brother Ahmed was also killed with her. Imagine that. Children are writing wills, like where their toys and pens should go to. Last week, Palestinian workers, these are all recent things, Palestinian workers began burying 88 bodies in mass graves in southern Gaza. A day after, Israeli military had returned the corpses in a container truck, or just pulled up, big container truck with dead bodies without providing information about who they were or where they had been taken from. Imagine that. And the health ministry had initially refused to accept the bodies, demanding that you need to provide some information. Who are these people? And this isn't just the first time. The Israeli military has brought hundreds and hundreds of unidentified bodies back in Gaza. If this just happened once, anywhere in the world, it would be the headline for weeks. And it would be the headline if Israel wasn't the mass murderer. So why is Israel, and like recently what we've seen as well, what's Israel planning to do in the West Bank that it doesn't want the media covering? The Israeli occupation raids Al Jazeera office in Ramallah, closes it down. What are they trying to hide? And the Israelis have long thought that they can use a big stick called the Iron Wall. Those who have been there will understand. Huge iron wall to beat the Palestinians into submission, to get them to accept the fact that this is not their land, that the Israelis run the place and Palestinians are third-class citizens. But they have been unable to win with that policy because the wall cannot separate the olive tree from its roots. Every arrogant empire eventually collapses. Every boastful tyrant eventually falls. And it's only a matter of time. His promise is true. His victory is near, so long as we continue to persevere. Thank you very much.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much to our Imams and leaders of the Muslim community. Now, of course, there's a lot of information that's shared there that I'm sure many of us have already been aware of and have heard about and have read over the last year. But I think today, as a few of the reflections I've already highlighted, it's been so long and we've seen so much that we are getting to a point where people are becoming desensitized. They're becoming so used to, and what we're seeing on the news and our news feeds are becoming just everyday footage, and we are forgetting the impact behind those numbers that we hear, that all those figures that you see, they represent individuals. So I thank our Imams for mentioning and telling those stories, and I appreciate the time that you guys have put together to be here with us today, especially in all the busy schedules that we have. Now moving on, we have a special guest that is joining us. Alhamdulillah, he's come all the way from the city of York, and that is Professor Muhammad Al-Gumati, who, mashallah, has been part of the community for many years. He's a professor of electronics at the University of York, and he's also an elder of the community in York and a key figure behind the establishment of the York Mosque. And he's also an advisor to a number of UK universities and charities, and has been a massive contributor to different categories in technology and in science and civilization. He's also been given the Fazlur Rahman Award for Excellence in Engineering and Science and Technology in the past, and he plays a pivotal role in the local community. The community in York have achieved quite a lot in getting the Palestinian agenda onto the mainstream platform and getting organizations like the council, etc., to come on board with these issues and taking real action on it. So he wanted to, today he'll be sharing some of those lessons that have been learned and how we can take some practical steps in implementing some of these things, inshallah. So if I can ask Professor Al-Gumati to come up. Is it on here? I think he's got a presentation, so I'm just going to load this up while he walks up. In the meantime, you can give him a nice warm welcome. He's come all the way from York.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. While the technology can get there, I'll just spend a minute or two with you. And I will start by a verse that I always use in my teaching and in my public speaking. And that is, رَبِّ اشْرَحْ لِي صَدْرِي وَيَسِّرْ لِي أَمْرِي وَاحْلُلْ عُقْدَةً مِّن لِّسَانِي يَفْقَهُوا قَوْلِي. Oh Allah, open my chest, take the stutter out of my speech, so that I can be clear for people to understand me. The first point I'd like to share with you is, having been on this road myth around the war and the occupation of Gaza. I'd like to remind people that it is not a sprint. Don't expect to see results tomorrow. It is a marathon. It is going to take us a very, very long time. Some of the slides I will be sharing in here, I will try to use now and say, it reminded me.
Hold it close because that sound doesn't go too high.
So,
You can look here.
okay.
You can look here.
I can look in here and speak, or I can stand here and speak. So it's very important also as we speak, we have to be a bit careful because the bugging devices will be everywhere. So whatever we say, we need to be absolutely sure that it is factual. Emotions, yes, but facts are very important. And I will start by reminding people of a hadith from the Prophet ﷺ that أفضل الجهاد كلمة حق أو كلمة عدل عند سلطان الجائر. Yes, saying the truth in front of tyrants and all of that is one of the most important ways of resistance. So, why are we here today? We are here to stand for truth, justice, against the silence, distortion, and the oppression of another group of people. And I'd like to remind people also that, yes, we are here gathering, mashallah, it's a very nice community in here, but it's not a religious conflict. It's very important to understand that it is not a religious conflict. It's a humanitarian issue that we all need to be together with. So what I'm going to share with you is few points of a campaign that we have started at the city of York, trying to force the city council to have a statement, very simple statement of ending the war, restoring the immunities for the Palestinians, and the exchange of detainees. So I'm going to go over that. But actually, to get into that statement, we had to build bridges and communications with a large number of people. We had an hour Zoom link with our two MPs in New York. One was against and one was for. The one against has gone somewhere else. But actually, having the students, the health workers, all of these groups getting together, we managed at the end of the day to get the statement that we wanted to do. But I'd like also to draw the parallel with the South African struggle. I remember back in the 80s, late 70s, when we were standing in the rain and people were ridiculing us. And Maggie Thatcher used to say, Nelson Mandela is a terrorist and will die in prison. I could have said to her, say wallahi, because he was freed and he was one of the best that Africa has produced, that the world has seen for many, many years. And I'd like also to say that having a statement is not just sufficient. That is the beginning of a very long road. And the most important thing is the BDS movement. What have brought South Africa to its senses was the BDS. The Africans were asking for boycotting South Africa, putting pressure on the government there, politicians, sports, everywhere. And that is how it was won at the end of the day. The Palestinians have also issued a call back in 2005. And actually not just the Palestinians, also civil groups, Israeli civil groups doing the same thing. And in 2006, the Israeli government established a ministry to combat the BDS because it's hurting them. They know that that could very well be the road for the dismantling, as many Israelis now are writing and saying, the decolonization of Israel. The decolonization of Israel. Small, but effective, and they are coming for that. So, again, the narrative that the Israelis have needs to be rebutted. People need to stand and say, well, that is right and that is wrong. So, for example, the principle of inquiry is just out of the window when it comes to Israel. So, for example, claims of 1,200 people being killed on the 7th of October, the beheading of babies, rapes are accepted without any questions. Even though afterwards, Sleepy Joe retracted what he was saying about the beheading of babies. But that's still in the main media, you can see it. For the Palestinians, nobody cares. Recently, in May, the Lancet journal have published that about 8% of the Palestinian populations have been murdered. You know how many are these? Almost the whole citizens of a city like Hull. Imagine waking up in the morning and everybody in the city is killed. No life whatsoever. That is the scale of the tragedy that we are seeing, and that brought my tears to my eyes when the three imams were speaking here. Because I have grandchildren and I care about them. I have students that I have taught of Palestinian origin. I don't know whether they are alive or dead. And that is shame on this world that we live in. So I'll carry on and say, well, that narratives, that Israeli narratives, needs to be rebutted. And the first one, and the most important one that they are still playing on people is a land without people for people without land. Many of you will remember the name Yitzhak Rabin. Yitzhak Rabin, who was a Zionist, the son of a Zionist, married to a Zionist, came to his senses. And 1 month before he was killed, he gave a speech, which I still have that speech. And in that speech, he started by saying, when we came here, that land was not empty. And he used Hebrew language and said, Banunu Am, our cousins were in here. Destroying that myth of a land without people for people without land. 1 month afterwards, he was killed on the order of Sharon and that idiot who is now bringing the Jewish nation into destruction. As a matter of fact, and we really need to take this one very, very clear, what Netanyahu and the extremists in Israel are doing is not on behalf of the Jewish people all over the world. And he is going to bring death to innocent people for doing so. What he is doing today is what the Nazis have done to our cousins and human brothers and sisters back in the 40s. So I'll go over that, and because my time is almost done. But one of the areas, for example, early in the campaign, the BBC, Laura Kunzberg, invited the president of Israel to talk to us via the BBC. And he produced a book, My Life by Hitler, and said, well, they have found that in Arabic in one of the houses that they have raided that was occupied by the Palestinians and they have destroyed. The book was in pristine condition. And I couldn't believe how could she tell him, come on now, that's almost coming from the publisher. So I wrote to the BBC and I wrote to her, cowardly, she did not reply. But we need still to make the point. We need to write to them. We need to write to our MPs and councillors and say to them, check the facts and shame on you when you are propagating a lie. I know the time and Riza is coming in here, so I'll go and say, well, all right. That coded language also of self-defense, it's only one more slide and then I'll shot up. It's very important. That word self-defense. And as unfortunately the Archbishop of Canterbury going to Jerusalem and saying, and the duty of the Israelis to defend their people. That is a coded message of killing more and more innocent Palestinians. And I think we should really stop all of that hypocrisy and get that coding out of these messages that they are bombarding us with. So in conclusion, what I'd like to say is, you also in the city of Hull can force your council to have a statement, because that statement is the first step. And the second one is a BDS. We need to boycott, divest, and put sanctions on the Israelis to bring them to their senses. That is very important. If we don't do that, then yes, we can gather in here and we can really feel emotional and even tears. And I don't shy from shedding tears. I'm human. I'm not a robot. And none of us is. And we should really be proud to show our humanity with our fellow humans. Again, it is a global issue. The injustice everywhere, we also need to stand against that. Our campaign must grow stronger, and pushing our leaders, and actually the work that people have done have forced the present government to change some of their language and some of their vocabulary that they are using. Still, the arms are going to Israel to kill innocent Palestinians, perhaps 60-70% from the US. Germany is the second most important exporter of arms to Israel. But we, in this country, we have Al Bayt, which is famous for the drones that is killing innocent people in Palestine and across that region. So again, putting that pressure on our politicians, we can make them stop supporting the genocide in Palestine. The verse that I started with, or the quotation, is أفضل الجهاد كلمة حق عند سلطان جائر, is one that we should really continue to use. We should say the truth, no matter what it is. There will be a cost, by the way. There will be a cost. But the price of living as a human being, the price for Jannah for Muslims, or heaven for non-Muslims, or to live as a human being, far exceeds the silence of see no evil, hear no evil, say no evil. No, we will say the truth is that innocent people in Palestine are being murdered, and we have to stand by them. Like our ancestors stood by the Jewish people who have been expelled from Spain, or those during the 1940s and 30s from Europe. Thank you very much for listening, and I'm sorry if I have gone over the time.
Let me close it first. Jazakallah khair. Yes, you can take it now. Thank you very much. Again, I think there's a lot of historic context there, and from a slightly different angle. Hopefully, inshallah, there's benefit in the detail that we learned from Professor Al-Ghamati. I know, mashallah, is a depth of knowledge and has a lot to share, but it was a bit unfair on him, to be honest. We only gave him 10 to 15 minutes, and it's a vast topic. So I feel like I came to fix the TV by there. I wasn't rushing you off the stage. There was something came up on the screen. Again, there's lots to do, and again, today is one of those steps within the milestones that we are undertaking to ensure that the cause for Palestine and the people of Palestine are not forgotten and are not abandoned. And I'm sure as we look at the fallout from today's gathering and the next steps and the action that we need to take, there'll be lots for us to learn, and more those that have the ability, the capacity, the time to gather and to actually take action. We can ask people like Professor Ghamati to come and share his wisdom and give us the lessons that they have learned from their experience. But of course, one of the things that we can do on a local level is, in addition to the national protests, and I think it's important that we continue to raise the profile and the presence here in our local community. As I said, we've not seen activism like this for a very long time. But I do feel that there are the usual suspects that are constantly out and about and are constantly raising the flag for Palestine and are constantly making an effort. And those are people that are truly inspiring for all of us. And so what I wanted to do is to ask one of those people that has led lots of initiatives and activities that has brought people together to just share a few reflections and a few things that they have done to try to continue to raise the flag for Palestine and bring people together. Someone that's local and that's brought people together, and we've had the pleasure of attending many events together on this cause, and that is Jean, one of our local activists. Give her a big warm welcome, please.
Can I start by asking, if I speak without a microphone, can you hear me at the back? Yes. That's yours. Okay. When I was first approached by Isra to speak at this event, my initial response was no way. There are others that are far more knowledgeable than I and have been raising awareness of the plight of the Palestinian people for so much longer. However, Israel's approach did make me review the last year, its impact upon myself, family, friends, and the wider community. And what a small achievement a few of us have actually made in raising further the awareness, but raising money as well. So when Imam Mizan made a similar approach the following morning, with some trepidation, I agreed. My brief for this afternoon is to talk about the fundraising initiatives I, with others, have been involved in, both raising money and awareness for the horrors faced by the people of Palestine, and how together we can build upon the success of these events, raise even more monies to provide humanitarian aid, and may I add, build even further the strong and emotionally supportive relationships that have started across our communities. I became involved in fundraising totally by accident when I foolishly expressed an interest in supporting another member of the Humber Palestinian Support Group raise monies for Palestine at the Ella Street Festival. He booked the stalls, signed people up to manage, resource and staff them, and then went off an extended holiday to warmer climes. The weeks and days prior to the festival can best be described as manic, anxious making for all involved, and we all kept a close eye on our weather apps. The day arrived and the weather forecast was right. There was heavy rain, which did not stop until lunchtime. Despite this, and a food inspector serving notice on the food element of our venture, people came, expressed their support for the people of Palestine, what we were doing to raise funds to support humanitarian aid, and spent their money. We raised £1,750 that day, and that was divided between medical aid for Palestine and Gaza Educates Medics. I will not pretend it was not hard work, but fun was also had, and it brought people together. Building on the success of this event, a second joint fundraising initiative was planned for the 10th of August, which unfortunately had to be postponed on the advice of the police as they were concerned for people's safety. The far right had brought their hate to the city the previous week and caused havoc and built upon the fear many in the city sadly already experienced. The riots in Hull on the 3rd of August were racist, Islamophobic and designed to spread hate and division. However, some said not in my city, and many residents turned up the next day to assist in the clean-up. As a direct result of the events of the 3rd of August, some residents of Ella Street, possibly the same ones that organised the festival, invited members of the Pearson Park Mosque for tea and cake. The event was well supported, and I can vouch that there was lots of laughter, fun, great food, and new relationships were formed. Residents of Ella Street accepted an invitation from the mosque to be part of its Sharing Stories event at the mosque in Pearson Park on the 28th of September. Believe it or not, I did not gate crash that one, as I was busy setting up another event in the pavilion. But I did see on that day lots of smiling people leaving the mosque to join us in the pavilion, deep in conversation, and it did look as though they'd had a really good morning. But before I talk about the tea party of last Saturday, gosh, it seems ages ago, I must mention the event of the 31st of August, which also took place in Pearson Park and raised money for a number of agencies providing relief to the people of Palestine. It was a joyous event. Tables, chairs and gazebos were in place in good time for the people to set up, as well as the stall selling all manner of things in the park. There was delicious food and coffee available. Games were organised. The sun shone. So many people attended, and the park was at last as it was intended to be, a place for people to meet, play, talk, have fun and meet their neighbours. An astonishing £9,007.94 for humanitarian support was made on that day. Last Saturday's tea party in the park was also well attended, and once again the sun shone on us. By chance, I've already said about the open day at the mosque, so I'm not going to repeat myself on that. The atmosphere on the day was great. There were a variety of stalls, a raffle, a tombola. There was tea and cake, all of which looked delicious, but sadly I didn't get the opportunity to sample. By working on that stall, I was astonished by just how much cake a small percentage of the whole population can eat. But by doing so, they contributed another £2,172.82. That money again was split between Medical Aid for Palestine and Gaza Educates Medics. Over the 3 events, almost £12,000 was raised to support humanitarian aid for Palestine. A drop in the ocean as far as what is needed, but something as opposed to nothing, and it was made in only 3 months. Whilst all 3 fundraisers have had a different feel to them, all have taken hard work in the planning, preparation, and as well as the effort on the day, but they have clearly demonstrated what can be achieved when a group of people with shared values and a common aim come together. People gave of their time and energy to ensure that each event was successful and were rewarded by the donations given and the generosity of those that attended. I could, if you want, go through a list of the individuals and businesses who made this happen, but it would take too long. And besides, they all know who they were. At the risk of sounding a bit pompous, I would like to express my thanks to everybody involved for making this happen and for the relationships that have been formed as a result. By being involved in these events, I feel closer to the community in which I live than I have ever felt before. And if others feel the same way, that has been a positive outcome. We do have some ideas about future events, and one of these we would like to actually make happen at the Lazat restaurant and hotel out towards Skidby. We understand the owner of the hotel is sympathetic to the cause, so if anybody knows them, could they please arrange an introduction for us so we can go and speak to them? Thank you. The man is stood next to me.
Sorry, I'm just sorting the screen out.
I understand you know the owner as well. Anyhow, what we do know is that we can't stop here, as our fundraising efforts will be required for years to come for both Palestine and sadly for Lebanon too. Whether we do this by direct meetings, via a WhatsApp group, I don't know, but do it we must. We can do more, and every time we will do it better. It only takes will and determination. Thanks for listening, and free Palestine.
Thank you, Jean. Technical issues while you were speaking, so I was trying to sort that out, and I'll try and sort that out in between this and the next speaker. I know we've had quite a few speeches so far, but I think just to let everybody know, there will be a short break soon after the next couple of speakers, and we will be serving the delicious food that has been promised to everyone. And we'll have a break to just take a bit, get to know each other and have some conversations. See the stalls outside where you'll be able to buy merchandise where all the profits from the sales will go to support the crisis response team, its activities, and also some of the charities that we work with. So we will have a break shortly. I found Jean's talk really inspiring, not just because of the speech itself, but actually what it represents and all the different activities that you guys have done. And all the different efforts. And it goes to show that when a few people come together, the amount of difference that we can all make. I mean, I'm not sure how many of us in the room have 10, 15, 20,000 pounds to just give to a cause like this. But when you bring a community together and we all do our small part and we all contribute, it really does make a difference. And all of the charities that you've talked about are doing amazing work. And I'm really grateful. So give Jean and the group a massive, massive round of applause. And a big part of sharing that was I hope that it inspires others in the room to do something similar. If you have a network of people, which I think we all do, and want to organize something, you can reach out to either the crisis response team. I'm sure Jean will be able to support as well. And there's lots of people in the room that are willing to support. There's places like this venue that we can organize events in. We can do things in the park, maybe when the weather starts to get a bit better again, although we've had great weather today, alhamdulillah. But there's lots of things that we can all do, and Jean's an example of how if you take a bit of action, people will come together, and together we can make a real difference. So thank you once again. We're going to move on now, and we're going to have a few words from Anthony Garrett, who I think is he here? There he is, and who's part of the Palestine Solidarity Group and campaigns, and has been heavily involved with activism for the people of Palestine. Obviously there's lots of initiatives that are happening in the city, and Anthony's been part of that as well. So if I can ask you to come up and give him a nice round warm welcome to the stage.
Thank you. Yes, I've been introduced, so I don't have to do that, thankfully. Just to say about that last speaker, Jean, those figures of £2,000, £1,900 that were raised, the lovely thing about that is that's by people putting £1 in, £2, £5, buying a piece of cake, getting a bag or whatever it may be. People don't have to spend a lot of money, but if quite a lot of people spend little bits of money, it becomes those sorts of figures, and that's just so inspiring to hear about, really. Yes, so the Humber Palestine Solidarity Campaign is affiliated to a national campaign. I'm guessing a lot of people will know about it. If you don't, it's the main national campaign for the freedom of Palestinians and their general sort of needs. That's been around for a good few years. Off the top of my head, I don't know when it started, but we're affiliated to that for the Humber area. And we started in 2019 when probably about 5 or 6 of us got together from a mixture of Grimsby and Hull and Market Wheaton and Withensea, so all around that Humber area. And we came together, we had a meeting, and we said there hasn't been sort of any formal campaign. There have been odd things happening for instance, I think it was in 2014, there were campaigns arranged, there were marches and things at that time, but there wasn't anything consistent happening in this area to help Palestinians. And so we got together and we had a meeting, and what happened next? We had the pandemic and everything locked down, and we couldn't have any more meetings. I think we perhaps had a couple of stalls out as well, and so everything had to change. We carried on via Zoom, and then when we could, we got back out again, and we had a stall running which raised money for the medical aid for Palestinians, MAP, and sold badges and things like that. And then the present genocide started happening as well. Now, this meeting is about 1 year of genocide, and I think is one of the genocide started much longer before that. I mean, there was the 2014 massacre, and there have been many more before that, and even since that, there's been intrusion by the IDF into both the West Bank and Gaza. People have died, people have been taken into what they call administrative detention, but otherwise you could just call them hostages and such like. So the campaign recognises that and has recognised that from before October the 7th. But when October the 7th came, we found that there was a much greater number of people who are interested in Palestine. Through our WhatsApp group, through our Facebook group, we managed to make contacts with people from various parts of the area, and we formed some demonstrations. We had marches around the city, and we showed the city that there were people here who cared about what was happening in Gaza. There were people, I mean, I talked to people on the marches that were from Gaza, had family in Gaza. There were a number of connections, and it was good to see that Hull had those connections, but it was so sad to hear the stories about what was happening with their families. So the idea of the campaign is to keep everything in the public eye, in Hull. Sorry, not in Hull, in the Humber area, but predominantly things are happening in Hull. When there aren't demonstrations going on, we might be campaigning outside Barclays. We might be, we will have a stall out very often on a Saturday. There's a stall that goes up into, is it Princes Avenue or Newland Avenue? Newland Avenue, yeah. There's a stall that goes up into Newland Avenue on Thursday sometimes. We try and keep a presence for the support of Palestinians. Those people, just to say as well, the stall is outside Zebra on Newland Avenue, the Zebra shop. Zebra shop has had problems when they put posters in the window, and people have actually complained about them having posters there supporting the freedom of Palestinians. The other thing that we're very much in support of is BDS. The professor from York gave a really good sort of mention of BDS, talked about that very much on the wider scale as well, because I mean, you were talking about councils and much wider support for sanctions and not investing, but with us on our local basis, and maybe we need to talk to York and go down those lines as well. But so far we've been focusing very much on the personal side of BDS, the side that you and I can take part in. Too many items to mention, but it's looking at the items which are on the boycott list and thinking, how can I buy something different? How can I have something which I'm still going to enjoy? So I like a cup of coffee, but I'm not going to go to Costa or Starbucks or these other places. Why not just go to an independent coffee place? You're helping out an independent retailer rather than a big mass marketplace, and also you're helping the Palestinians because these small independent places will not be will not be investing in the Israeli cause. So it's little things like that. Do I want to drink Coca-Cola or Pepsi, or do I want to go for various ones like there's a Palestine cola, there's a bar cola, there are various others. For my personal business, I'm looking at what other options I can reasonably use as well. So it's doing these things on a personal basis, looking at those things. And the Humber campaign is out there. It's trying to bring, it's trying to show the people of Hull that we care. And sometimes we get resistance, and sometimes we get lovely. I mean, especially with the vigil, the medical vigil, get lots of hoots and of horns in support as well. And those have increased over time. It's been very noticeable that the support for Palestine has increased over this last year. Even though this last year is not the history of Palestinian oppression. What I want to sort of, so I'll bring an end to is to say that anyone here is able to become involved. We have a WhatsApp group, we have a Facebook group. If you want to approach me at some point, possibly Jean as well, are you an admin for? Yeah, so either Jean or myself, if you want to approach us, we can take your details and we can add you to the WhatsApp group. On Facebook, you can search out for Humber Palestine campaign, and we can add you to that as well, so you get an idea of what's happening. But the other thing is that on the organising side, we still really have too few people doing the admin and the organisation. And what this means is that we can't keep up the sort of momentum that we would like and many other people would like, because there just isn't the time for those people who are doing it. So if there's anyone who can help us with that side, sorry, I think I lost the microphone there. Anyone who can help us with that side of things would be really helpful, because if we can have 2 or 3 people who can do each of the jobs for organising, say, marches and things, then we can perhaps just keep that momentum going, and then people and keep it in the loop. And what was said earlier on about desensitizing over, I think it was you, Professor, wasn't it? About the desensitization over the year that we've had on TV. I think that's very true, and it's about us trying to keep it into people's mind, keep people's minds, because otherwise it goes off the TV. People lose that interest in supporting. Anyway, thank you very much, and do come up to me or Jean and say, can I be on the WhatsApp group?
Thank you very much for that, I think. And if you see me edging closer to you on the stage, that's a sign that your time is up. So for any more speakers, that's a subtle way of sharing. But yeah, the Palestine Solidarity Campaign has been something that not just locally but nationally has been a real backbone of support for the people of Palestine, has been really standing up with regards to BDS and taking lessons from Professor Al-Ghamati's speech. And of course, the biggest lesson in maybe some of our lifetimes, the lesson from South Africa. We know how successful the BDS movement was, and it continues to be, and hopefully it will be one of the main tools that sees the liberation of Palestine one day, inshallah. So if you can, I feel the pain that these guys go through, because any organization, you always find that there's a very small handful of people that are constantly doing the work, that are constantly organizing, that are constantly mobilizing and putting time in behind the scenes to make things happen. And then obviously people turn up on the day and enjoy themselves, and they take part in activities and they support the cause, which is absolutely essential and phenomenal, and we appreciate it. But the small group of people do get burned out. So if anybody does, after today, if not before today, if today has inspired you to do something and to say, you know what, I'm going to commit a bit of my time for the cause of Palestine, for the people of Palestine, then the Palestine Solidarity Campaign is a really important organization. Please do find out Jean and Anthony during the break, which will be after our next speaker. You'll be glad to hear. And get involved and give your time and attend those events, inshallah. So before the lunch break, it's a bit of a late lunch, but before you get your meals served to you, which will be served in your seats, by the way, so you don't all need to rush out. After the next speaker, I ask you all just to stay seated. Food will come to you, and then we'll have a short break. And then once you've eaten, you can get up and stretch your legs, etc. But before we do that, I'm going to ask our next speaker, who is a trade unionist, but also an activist that's being involved with standing against a lot of the hate that's been coming into our city, all the far right and the fascists that over the recent months have caused havoc, not just in Hull, but across the country. One of the things that I think is essential when that happens is for a group of people, or all of us as a community, to stand against it and not to give them a free pass. And not everybody feels comfortable in doing that, but there are a few that have done that have stood up, that have defended and stood on the right side of history. And our next speaker hopefully represents that. It's Mike Whale. Please give him a nice warm welcome.
Well, thanks very much to the organisers for inviting me to come and speak to you today. I'm very, very aware that the last speaker before food is usually the most unpopular speaker, and I'll do my very best to be as quick as I can and not repeat all the points. But I feel I have to start by commenting on the absolute disaster that has happened in Gaza. It would be wrong, I think, to turn up here and just start saying, well, I think we should do this, I think we should do that, without noting, on behalf of people perhaps not directly connected, but who've watched the scenes unfold on a daily basis on the television. And I don't think you can underestimate the impact that seeing those images of bomb buildings, of bodies lying unburied in the streets, has had on ordinary people in this country. Because I think the demonstrations that have taken place, particularly the national demonstrations, have been huge. They've been huge, even in proportion to big demonstrations in this country. And I think that that's an indication that for the vast majority, I believe, and I'm not just saying this to be popular, I genuinely believe the vast majority of people in this country are in favour of a ceasefire, would condemn what the state of Israel is doing, and would support and want to get as much aid as possible in to help those that have suffered at the hands of the Israeli state in Gaza. And I have to say, I agree with the speakers that have gone before. I don't want to just repeat what's been said. But increasingly now it looks like we're going to see a similar situation evolve in the Lebanon. And the ongoing problems, which have been largely forgotten on the West Bank, where Israeli settlers, with impunity, with the backing of the Israeli Defence Force, have raided and attacked and murdered Palestinians on the West Bank. It is quite clear to me that Netanyahu is desperately trying to eradicate, as he sees it, any opposition whatsoever to himself. And I think that we have to continue to do what we've already been doing, which is to demonstrate, which is to stand up in all the different forums. Now, I come here as a trade unionist, and Hull and District Trades Council has discussed the question of Gaza and the wider Middle Eastern problems on a whole number of occasions over the last year, but also, as other speakers have hinted, this is not a new problem. It's a more developed, horrible problem, but it's a problem that has gone on for decades. The squeezing of Gaza by Israel before, let alone the bombing that's taken place, but the economic squeezing, the incursions, the pass laws and all the rest of it that have been put in place are an indication of a racist government that does not treat everybody the same. In fact, I think I'm right in saying that Netanyahu attempted to get through some law changes in Israel that would change Israel, which nominally at least is a secular state, into a state of the Jews. And that is something which I'm pleased to say has been resisted. And I'm going to raise a few points, perhaps for you to think about, that you might not immediately agree with. But in terms of the way forward, I think I agree that targeted sanctions can be a very effective method of putting pressure on governments. But I would say that in and of itself will not change the situation in Israel. That is not an excuse not to do it, but I think we have to be to look at how we can bring about change, and how change can come about. And I believe that lies in the hands of Palestinian workers, the wider Arab working class, and also, and this may be controversial in this meeting, I don't completely rule out the Israeli working class either, because one of the things that has heartened me enormously in the last few weeks was the general strike which took place in Israel. Now let's be clear, that general strike was not in support of the Palestinians. It was over the issue of hostages. But what it shows is that Israel is not a monolith, that there are cracks and divisions which can be exploited. And if the Israeli working class, and there have been actions involving Israeli workers and Palestinian workers in the past through the trade union movement, then I think that could be a method of changing things. Because I'll be quite honest with you, I support every step that has been put forward to get some kind of a peace, a ceasefire. Who wouldn't? But how many ceasefires have we had in the past? How many agreements? How many United Nations resolutions have we had in the past? I lose count. I think the only force capable of ensuring peace and tranquility in what should be a beautiful land are the workers and peasants of the Middle East, and maybe the Israeli working class as well. As a trade unionist, I work on the basis of workers' solidarity. That applies in this country. I also believe it applies internationally. And that's the programme that I think could take, or could in the long term, the moment it's carnage, but in the long term, it could resolve the problems in Gaza, in Palestine, and in the wider Middle East, which is too big a subject to even begin to go into, particularly with food about to be served. So I'll leave you with that thought for the future, and thanks very much for inviting me and listening.
Thank you, Mike. I think it's refreshing to hear an entirely different perspective maybe to what we're used to, and I think that's why when the organisers were putting together the plan, it was important to have that perspective as well. There are lots of issues that need to be tackled, and of course, the illegal settlements and the occupation, the apartheid that has been legally proven by Amnesty International, and the long-term liberation of the people of Palestine. These are all things that we all have a role to play in for years and maybe even generations to come. And I hope that today is another step in that direction. But of course, for many of us, we know that immediately, if there isn't a ceasefire and if there isn't an end to arms sales to Israel, then we can't look at the long-term liberation of the people of Palestine. So appreciate the words that have been shared. As you can see, the food has arrived and it will be passed down. Because we haven't got a large banqueting hall here, we are going to, in the true spirit of solidarity, we're going to pass the parcel down the rows, and food will reach every single one of you, and all of you will have food, inshallah. But if you can just wait till the volunteers share out the food so that everybody has their meal first, and then afterwards, if anybody needs to go and stretch their legs or grab a coffee or go to the bathroom or whatever, you're more than welcome to do that, inshallah. But for now, we're going to take a break for about half an hour to 40 minutes where you'll have time to have your food. But remember, the most important part, at least in my opinion anyway, will be after the meal, where we'll be speaking directly inshallah, to doctors who are in Gaza, who, inshallah, we will have a live link. I know the screen has gone off, but we'll resurrect it, inshallah. And we'll hear directly from people on the ground in Gaza, and also from eyewitness account from those that have been to Gaza as well. So for now, enjoy the food, and we'll be back with you after the break. And I don't mind a round of applause as well if you want to give me one. That's fine. Thank you. Huh? This screen went off, so I don't know if there's a setting for like keeping the screen on. Yeah, it'll be here. We'll work it out. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. That's fine. We'll work it out. ये नहीं click करो. और तो इधर से ठीक है. That's fine. We'll give it. Abdul, give this to Sheikh. Yeah, give it to me. I'll take it. Thanks, bro. Appreciate it.
Thank you.